What's up, guys? Once again, it is MP4Podcast.com, bringing you guys some of the most interesting video game news that you guys really do need to know about. Now, the investors over at Microsoft want the new CEO to kill the Xbox One brand. This does seem very bizarre since Microsoft has just launched their newest console, the Xbox One. Now, why do investors want to do this? Well, they invest into companies and they want a quick profit. These investors have stock in multiple companies. These are multi-millionaire people. You know, you can get somebody who probably has stock in Sony. They probably got stock in Nintendo. They could probably get stock in Google, and multiple other companies, even like Ford Motors, Toyota, DirecTV. The list goes on and on and on of how many different stocks they own in different companies. And their main goal is to clear my throat. That's why I have a blue Yeti with a mute button. So in this case, you guys want to do some commentary, get a good microphone with a mute button. But anyway, guys, let's get back on the topic. You know, the most dangerous thing with these investors is that, you know, they want the money really, really quickly. And they don't care about the longevity of their company. For instance, let's look at Apple, for instance. The very first phone which used iTunes, I believe it was a Samsung, or it was I think it was maybe a T-Mobile. I can't remember what brand it was, but it wasn't an iPhone. It was another phone. But let's just say, for whatever reasons, you know, iTunes wasn't really doing that good. It wasn't that successful. I mean, I know it was very successful. The iPod was very successful. But let's say things turned around when the iPhone came out. They loved this touch interface and so on. Tech companies need to invest money into other areas. They have other things to fall back on. One of the most dangerous things to Windows is another operating system. And I don't know if they have some secret agreement with Apple, but Apple will not bring OS X over to the PC. Even though I know Macs are PCs, Windows are PCs, I'm just saying a computer we can just install any operating system. Mac won't do that. Microsoft gave Apple way back in the 90s like $150 million so they wouldn't go bankrupt. Microsoft did that because they didn't want the government coming down on them, because then there would be a monopoly and so on. But who knows if somebody will market Linux correctly? You know, the thing with Linux, and I played around with Linux way back in the day. It wasn't that user-friendly if you were just coming from Windows. Line command, installing an application, I didn't know how to do it. This is kind of like, you know, you try and watch YouTube videos in 240p, and sometimes you're trying to look at the text, what the guy's explaining, and you can't even read it because it's 240p or whatever. But, you know, I know about Ubuntu. You know, you can download applications right from the application store. But, you know, sometimes I did find a couple things in that weren't in their application store that I wanted to install. I had some problems with it and so on. But if somebody makes a universal, like a version of Linux that like Dell starts installing on their computers, HP, Sony Vios, gateways, Acers, that's like OS X. I'm not saying, you know, the interface is like OS X, but it's so simple like OS X, where you can just give it to grandma and she can use it. I'm not saying all grandmas are even good at OS X or Windows, but they'll be able to use it. You don't have to worry about it. They're going to be able to use it easily. All right? That could be a very dangerous spot for Microsoft to be in. And there is a possibility of that day coming. Manufacturers do not like the idea of buying Windows licenses. They don't like it at all. I mean, Dell would much rather sell computers with Linux, but they have deals with Microsoft. And actually, if you bought the same computer with Linux installed, it actually costs more money. You know, because Microsoft has deals with Dell, and it gets very complicated and so on. but it's nice to have another division to fall back on. Now, the Xbox 360 was a disaster when it came out, okay? From a hardware standpoint, we all know about the Red Ring of Death. The system was too small, it didn't have enough airflow, and so on. I mean, my first Xbox 360 was horrible. Absolutely horrible. I'd be playing Tomb Raider, which I can't remember which Tomb Raider it was, but it would just lock up. I'd just be playing it, it would just lock up and so on. And, you know, I didn't really have a good experience with the Xbox until, you know, I sold the one I had and I got a PS3. And then I got another Xbox down the road and so on. But they need to have something successful. Now, the Xbox One is a very well-built console from a stabilization point of view. Not talking about frame rates, not talking about resolution or anything. I'm just talking about plugging it in, turning it on. Will you have problems with it? The Xbox One is designed very well. That's why it's flat. I mean, they want as much airflow in that console. They know they screwed up with the 360. You know, and if they if they have a very successful run with the Xbox One, right, they are going to have another success with the other Xbox after this one. That's because they're not losing any money on this Xbox at all. They're not going to have any problems like the 360. So they're probably going to be profitable down the road. So that gives them a safety net if, you know, something happens to Windows. And who knows if some other company comes along and offers even a better product than Microsoft Office. There is Open Office, which most people don't use. But let me tell you something. The German government, and I can't remember how long ago, this is like 4 or 5 years ago, switched all government computers over to Linux. Steve Ballmer made a special trip, I believe. I could be wrong about this, but I believe he got on a plane, went to Germany to talk to the German president or whatever, and say, hey, you know, we want to work with you. You guys are our friends. And they're like, you know, your software is expensive. We got free software right over here. You know, so, you know, that's what happened. So they can lose that market. Now, don't get me wrong. There are certain advantages to buying good software, like Microsoft Office. There are a lot more features in Microsoft Office than Open Office. You know, the spell checker is more advanced in a lot of things. You can do a lot more. But I'm not saying you can't write a good novel or you can't, you know, write good spreadsheets in Open Office or any of those things. But it's almost like on Open Office, you're probably about maybe 4 or, you know, 6 years behind when it comes to Microsoft Office. That's what I think I remember reading and so on. But, I mean, some people would say, I don't care about using the a 4-year-old version of Microsoft Office. Who cares? I'd rather use that one, and I don't want to pay for a new version anyway. You know, it gets the job done. Who cares? That's the danger of pulling the Xbox One. And I said this multiple times, even about Nintendo. Nintendo should be making other products besides, you know, their home console and their handheld. I mean, maybe Nintendo should make HD TV sets or make cameras, make other good products. You know, if you're a Nintendo fan and Nintendo came out with a really good camera, I'm pretty sure that you would probably go look at it and, you know, you may say, okay, you know, I like this camera, maybe I'll buy it. Maybe you'll get the Nikon or you'll get the Canon camera or some other brand, but you would at least consider buying the Nintendo camera. And that's where Sony is kind of trying to repair themselves. Sony is trying to repair themselves in other divisions. I can tell you that the Sony cameras that are being made today, now the older Sony cameras really weren't that good. You had to use their very special software. From what I heard, some people had them that they told me. My aunt has a old Sony, I don't know, Cybershot, whatever it is. I think it's like a 4 megapixel camera, 3 megapixel camera. And you have to use a special Sony software. Then you have to get those special Sony SD cards. You couldn't use the regular ones that everybody uses, and so on. And people were like, I don't want to deal with Sony cameras. But then Sony turned around. They said, okay, there's better camera companies than us. Who are they? They're Canon, Nikon, Olympus, Pentax, all those other well-known brands that have been in the camera business for over 50 years or more. So what Sony did was they said, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make higher-end cameras than some of these other guys, okay? And then we're going to offer other cameras with even more features for around the same price. So they started playing with their markets, right? They have some cameras which are really expensive that use Carl Zeiss lenses and all this other mumbo jumbo. And then they have other cameras that compete with the other big boys on a very good level. Now I'm hoping that Sony can do this with some of their other divisions, but it's kind of late in some of these other divisions to do some of this repairing. Let me give you an example. Back in, I believe it was 2000, right? I bought a 20-inch television, flat screen Sony brand TV set. It had two inputs in the front and the back. It had the yellow for the video, white and red for audio. Okay, RCA cables. The speakers would crack if it was too high, or you pushed the brightness up for some reason. The speaker, but I adjusted it and I really didn't have a problem. I just had to know not to put the brightness up that high. So then my dad bought a Toshiba TV set, right? Like a month later or something. 20-inch, okay. The speakers were on the side, like, from running along the side, where my Sony speakers were on the bottom. Not really a big deal at all, okay. But here's the kicker: the Toshiba had component input, had S-video input, RCA input, okay. It was a much better TV set for the exact same price. And that's what Sony is doing in their camera line with some of their SLT cameras. They're really good cameras. Some of their mirrorless cameras are really good cameras. And they are giving Canon and Nikon a run for their money. Especially in their mirrorless department, they're doing really good. And that division of Sony is one of the very few departments in Sony that is doing really good. But what I'm saying is, Microsoft also needs those other really strong departments. They need their Xbox brand. They need their cell phone division. They need their tablet division. They need these other divisions. All companies do. And like I said, I hope Nintendo can make some other products. Maybe dabble in a few other things. I mean, I would love to buy a Nintendo camera. Good quality, point and shoot Nintendo camera. With the LCD, maybe they could put a couple of games in there or something like that. There actually was, I think it was a Fuji, actually had a shooter in there. It was a built-in game or something like that. But remember one thing about these companies. They only care about their bottom line. But when you hear that, 99% of the time, it's coming from the investors. Guys like Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, who built this company from the ground up. These are technology guys. Guys like, Steve Jobs and Wozniak. Those are the guys that built the company. Okay, they understand technology. They understand that it's important to be in other places. And sometimes investors can screw up companies really, really bad. So once again, guys, this has been mp4podcast.com. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. If you guys want to help out the video, it does help out the video. If you do like the video, it just helps promote it a little bit more. Guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Once again, this has been mp4podcast.com signing out. You guys have yourself an awesome day.